Let's go out to talk to Cam Inman, Bay Area News Group, covers the San Francisco 49ers, also our 95.7 The Game 49ers insider. Hey, Cam, what's going on?
Hey, happy week 7.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me see. Let me start with, I'll tell you where I'm going to start, where we've discussed a lot, is Jim Harbaugh coming back on Sunday. Can we assume that means that Jed York and he have buried the hatchet? And then what about Colin Kaepernick? Do we know anything about him and some other players from that team who may come back?
Let me just start off saying the Niners haven't announced anything regarding Alumni Weekend, so we don't officially know who's coming back or who's been invited. All indications are that Jim Harbaugh is coming back. Whether that means they buried any hatchet, I think Jed and Jim are both of the, I don't want to say bygones. You know, it's 8 years ago they parted under awkward circumstances, to say the least. But I think they both found success afterwards, so I think it worked out for each party. You know, Jim's thriving at Michigan at his alma mater. Jed's got a team that's back in playoff contention annually. And you know, it's bye weekend at Michigan, so Jim has every reason to come and celebrate with his former players, because it was a really good time a decade ago as it kind of helped flip this franchise around and get them back in the playoffs. As far as Cap goes, you know, there hasn't been a peep about it. And that's not surprising. I mean, he's really been underground football-wise, especially Niner-wise, since he left here after the 2016 season. So, I mean, it would be a nice place for him to re-entry with all his ex-teammates, guys who, you know, honored him as the Len Eschman Award winner his last season here in 2016. And I just haven't gotten any indication that that's the case. The Niners have been very tight-lipped about who's coming. And, I mean, that may come out tomorrow, maybe not even till Sunday. But, you know, to me, it's kind of a mixed emotions, Matt. I mean, yes, you want to celebrate a team that won an NFC championship and did really well. They also lost the franchise's first Super Bowl. And then you're going against the Kansas City Chiefs, the team that they lost the second time a Super Bowl against. So as much as great nostalgia there is with this franchise, you're going to be facing, like, you're going to be reminiscing about the two worst losses in franchise history this weekend.
Yeah, it's interesting, Cam. That's kind of where I wanted to go with it a little bit in looking back at the Harbaugh era, the 4 years where Harbaugh was the head coach. How do you think how that stretch is viewed has changed, let's say, in the 8 years that he's been gone? Is it viewed as, wow, tremendous success and the most success they'd had in quite a while at that point? Or is it viewed as, man, it really ended awkwardly and kind of ugly?
No, I think that's more of the positive aspect, just because of how down and out they were and having missed the playoffs, what was it, 8 or 9 years until they got over that hump in 2011. And they did so with such a fantastic win against the Saints at Candlestick. It was a big time for this franchise. It was the transition, right? They had made it to 3 consecutive NFC Championships games, and then they moved into Levi Stadium in 2014. So there was a lot going on with the 49ers then. And I think just the fact that they were building a stadium the same time they were rebuilding themselves into a playoff contender. And it was a short window of success. You know, it was 3 years of the playoffs and then followed by a mediocre season where all hell broke loose. And then it took a few years to recover from that. And when they made it back to the Super Bowl in 2019, it was so swift. You know, after, you know, those 2 seasons with Shanahan coming aboard and they had to sift through things and get Garoppolo installed as the quarterback, and then boom, they're in the Super Bowl. And then the injuries hit them, and they keep hitting them, and now you're sitting here going, well, I hope everybody else is kind of in the same boat, because right now the Niners don't know what they have.
Cam Inman joining us on 95.7 The Game, covers the San Francisco 49ers for Bay Area News Group. Where are we with all the injuries? I'll just start with Bosa, McGlinchey, Hufanga. Where are we with those guys? And then the 8 others.
Yeah, I'm trying to see let's do it by position so you can kind of take it from the defense. From the defensive front backwards, Bosa and Samson Ebukam are practicing today. We're just back out on the practice field about 15 minutes ago. So both those guys are out there. They both look good. No Eric Armstead, and Javon Kinlaw is on IR. So there's still a concern in the middle of that defense. But the fact that Bosa's practicing, which essentially is the 3rd straight day, is great news. And then the secondary is still kind of a mess. But Talanoa Hufanga, he's in uniform practicing today. That means he's made it through concussion protocol. He probably still has to clear a contact test to get fully clear, but that's a really good sign that he should be available Sunday. Travarius Ward is basically the only starter other than Armstead who was not practicing, but he was running on the side and he looked pretty good. So my guess is they'll probably list him as questionable against the Chiefs and just kind of gauge and see how it goes. Because I'm sure he would love to face the Chiefs and Mahomes because that was his old team. But then again, he is probably one of their best players on defense. Well, he is one of their best players on defense. So I don't know if you want to risk it if he's still dealing with groin issues. But then, and that's kind of it defensively. Jimmy Ward's practicing with a club on his hand. I don't know how that'll go. And then offensively, yes, McGlinchey is back practicing. He did not practice yesterday. There was one play in practice where it kind of looked like his leg may have buckled a little bit. So I was a little concerned about him being at full health. So that's something to watch going forward. But the fact that you got Debo and Kittle and Ayuk and Garoppolo and your stable running backs outside Elijah Mitchell, they need to put some points up on the board to keep up with Mahomes and the Chiefs.
And that's, Cam, you kind of led into where I was going. How do they get the offense going against a Chiefs team that can give up some yards and give up some points to maintain and hang in this game?
You get Jim Harbaugh to give the pregame speech in his khakis and a blue work shirt and his cleats on and fire him up. And then you have to hope that Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't turn the ball over. Because, that's where the Niners get in trouble in these games is if Jimmy turns the ball over. Even though it was Jeff Wilson Jr. turning it over in that first quarter in Atlanta, that really kind of set the stage of, they just kind of got to get that spark going. And they got to play hungry and angry. And I think what we saw in that fourth quarter in Atlanta, Kittle alluded to the effort and energy, and I don't think he was necessarily taking a shot at one person as much as the vibe. When you go on an 8-minute drive in the fourth quarter when time's of the essence, to me that reeks of a lack of urgency that everybody's got to pick their game up. And whether that's play calls, whether that's everybody, you got to get moving. And so that's what they have to do against the Chiefs because obviously everybody knows Mahomes and Kittle are just Mahomes and Kelce are just a fine-tuned machine, and the Niners may have to answer that. But like I said, JD, they got this. They got the weapons, so that they don't have an excuse. They're on their home turf. They're not an Arrowhead. They are home now. They're not on a back-to-back East Coast swing. They don't. You can make all the injury excuses you want, but every team has it, and they're done with them. And I don't think this team is going to wallow in that anymore. They have to go out and win this game.
Why do you think the 49ers don't use Kittle in the manner that the Chiefs use Kelce? Because Kelce's running 7 to 15-yard plays all the time. It feels like Kittle is 2 or 3 yards, or he's staying in to block, and then let's see how much he can get after the catch. Kittle could be an asset in that way, right?
In their defense, George Kittle's a much better blocker, so he stays in more to help block, and that helps. It's just a different offensive scheme, right?
Are you a playmaker though? If you're not a playmaker, if you're blocking, like that's one. If he's blocking, that's one less playmaker that they've got, right?
But it seems like each of the last 2 weeks he's getting ingrained more in the receiving game, which everybody's that's everybody's crying for. And he did have about as many catches as Ayuk and Debo last week, so. They know they got to get it going, but at the same time, you were missing Trent Williams on your offensive line, and McGlinchey's injured. So when you have a great blocking tight end like Kittle, you have to utilize it to make the offense work. It's not a one-man band on this offense. So Kittle, by the way, today seemed pretty fired up. He usually warms up by the media, and he seemed a little bit more intense than usual today. And there's going to be a lot of ballyhoo about this being National Tight Ends Day or whatever on Sunday for the NFL to promote. And the fact that Kelce's coming in to his house, I think Kittle's going to be playing with whatever hair he has left. He's got a pretty cool haircut that he likes to work on. I think he's going to come with that hair on fire this game.
Interesting. I didn't think about the Kelce angle.
Oh yeah, the other thing is about that whole tight end thing is he and Kelce host this tight end U out in Nashville the last couple summers, and Greg Olson, former Panthers tight end, he's now a broadcaster. He's going to be calling the game. So you have all three main players here. So you're going to hear nonstop about tight end U and National Tight Ends Day on Sunday. So I bet both of those guys want to have a showcase for themselves.
Hey, Cam, where are the Niners at with Jason Verrett? One other injury to throw in there. Like, I know they have to make a decision on him at some point in the next week, but is he going to be coming back, or how's that looking?
Well, I mean, it depends. I mean, he looked pretty good yesterday in practice when I was watching him, but he also looked good last Wednesday in practice, and they shut him down for 2 days because of knee soreness. So they have a week whether to activate him or not. He has to be activated off PUP by next Wednesday. Because they have a 3-week window to evaluate these guys that open the season on injured list like he did. So he's right now in his 3rd week of evaluation. They don't have to do it before this game. They can wait until Monday or Tuesday of next week if they want to. But unless he's having major discomfort where it's like career-ending stuff, it would be a surprise. So I would think that they activate him. And then it's just a matter of do you activate him against the Chiefs? Because obviously they're going to need him against the Chiefs' aerial assault when you're down without Emmanuel Mosley and you may be without Charvarius Ward.
Cam, thank you so much for joining us. It's going to be a fun game at Levi Stadium on Sunday.
I think it will. I'll see you guys there as usual.
All right.